Welcome back to the show, guys. Gideon here. Where do I begin except with a cup of water? Welcome back to the show, guys. I have a couple of concerns today, and I'm sure some of you are feeling the same concerns. But the first one that I'm going to start with is my concern about history repeating itself. You can clearly tell that there is an anti-Jewish sentiment growing, and I don't want to say anti-Semitic because I understand for a lot of people, they in their minds have legitimate reasons why they are no longer very pro-Israel, to put it this way. For instance, I have a friend who sends me videos of supposed Jewish people saying or doing things that they shouldn't do. And what concerns me is that I myself, for a period of time, I started to feel like, man, what is all this? But you have to be very careful and you have to take everything to the Lord. Now, I understand that not everybody on here is Christian, but for me, that's what I did. And I see a trend that I don't like because I feel that now there's this anti-Jewish sentiment that's growing. And this is largely because people are very, I don't want to use the word ignorant, but I would say belligerent in their in their expression of their feelings. For instance, you tend to see that if somebody has a problem with one person, instead of just saying I had a problem with Nigel or Jamal, they'll say I have a problem with all Ethiopians, or I have a problem with all Brazilians. So they just generalize people, and this is a dangerous thing. So, for instance, in my opinion, what from what I'm seeing, and this is not an opinion, you can just go around and check. I mean, every time now somebody calls out, let's say a Jewish person, and I want us to preface this, I really genuinely don't know who exactly is Jewish in these times, but for the sake of this conversation or discussion, let's just say when somebody calls out a Jewish person, what you tend to see is people in the comments going, yeah, it's them, we know about them and all that. And I'm like, look, this is dangerous because if you're breeding this anti-Jewish resentment, which can easily turn into hate, it makes you wonder or makes you think how, for instance, Hitler could have garnered the support that he did in back in World War II with, the anti-Jewish sentiments that he was able to use to kill millions of people, man. And I'm looking at the times that we're in, and I feel as though history is somewhat repeating itself, and this is concerning to me. Listen, as I've stated many times, there's nothing wrong with calling out an individual, an entity, or a government. Where there is a problem is when you start generalizing people and saying these people are the problem. This is very dangerous. This is very dangerous because once that idea becomes accepted by the general public, that's one. It's step one to having a revolt, and then chaos ensues. And listen, if you don't believe me, just go look throughout history with any group of people. The moment you identify a group of people and label them as one thing or say they fit this narrative or box, this is how revolutions, ungodly revolutions, I might add, start. And I'm really concerned because I don't like it. I don't like the direction that I see people taking this. Like I said, you can criticize a group of people, even you can say a group of people from a group of people. For instance, you can say some black people, you can say some white people, you can say some Jewish people, you can say some Arab people, whatever. But when you paint the brush over an entire group, man, it's dangerous. So I can understand why some Jewish people are really emotional right now and are really concerned because, I mean, if you've had something terrible, like some of the things that have happened to them before, of course you're going to be concerned when you see a general shift in sentiment. At the same time, I think, I really wish that a lot of Jewish people knew Jesus Christ and he would give them the wisdom to understand that the way to combat this is not by playing into the stereotypes of trying to control people or control their speech. You need to show, you need to just prove people wrong by letting them have their conversation, and you be willing to have free conversation with them as well. And by the way, this doesn't just apply to Jewish people, it applies to all races. So for instance, if you see black people, for instance, and if people are complaining about the black community and people don't like certain things about the black community, I don't think the wise thing for people of the black community to do is to just respond by trying to, cancel everybody or not let anybody have speech at all. Because it, like I said, when you do that and you try to control people that way, it just builds resentment. And a lot of people are not in control of their emotions, so they tend to go overboard. They tend to go overboard. So a lot of people be talking, and sometimes I have conversations or in my mind with people, and even in real life, where people would wonder, oh, I could never have been part of something like what happened with Hitler. That's a lie. You definitely could have been part of it. The reason is that when people will do anything, if they believe that it will help them save their skin, or make them feel better about themselves. And a lot of people who are jumping on this bad bandwagon of hating Jewish people, they don't really have any legitimate concerns. A lot of them are just doing it because they need something to jump on. Some people legitimately have a problem with some things that some supposed Jewish people have done, and that's fine for them to express. But other people are just jumping on the bandwagon. And this always happens anyway. So it can happen with Jewish people, it can happen with black people, it can happen with white people, black people who are anti-white. It is happening as we speak. And I think, to be honest, I think as humanity in general, we're really, really foolish, because if you just look at all the things that we're doing currently in the world, I mean, it's obvious that we are really foolish, really, really foolish. And we're foolish because we're not connected to God. And you cannot be connected to God without Jesus. You can know about God, but you don't know him without Jesus. You will never see the Father until you've seen Jesus Christ. And these are spiritual things, so they must be received in spirit. So that was concern number one. I encourage you guys to tone it down. Let's tone it down. Let's not try to be like, oh, Jewish people are this. Maybe you have an issue with one Jewish person. Just address the issue that you have with the person as much as possible. Because the direction in which we're heading is not good, man. Not good. Not good. And what was the next thing? Right. Let's talk about this whole Charlie Kirk situation and the controversy after his death. I particularly have not liked it at all, man. I think that, it's just made, well, you know what? Not everything that makes you uncomfortable is bad, but something in my spirit sometimes makes my stomach turn the more we've been going on and on about these conversations. All the debate about how he was killed and who did it and all that kind of stuff. Am I one to believe government reports at first sight? Absolutely not. I don't trust anything governments say. But the reason why I don't trust anything governments say is because I don't trust humanity as a whole. And let me be honest with you. That's because I can visualize myself in the same positions of power that these people are in. And probably without the fear of God, not probably, without the fear of God, I would do the same or worse than these people are doing. And that's just my confession. And most people, I don't know if they're like me, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but I can see why people in power hide things and manipulate the people and create all these false flag events the way they do. I can see why they would do it. And honestly speaking, without the fear of God, in the same position, I would do the same. Probably. Once you lose the fear of God, you're capable of doing anything. You don't feel that you have to answer to anybody. So you are capable of absolutely anything. And this is something that I also learned by reading the book The Prince by Machiavelli. It's just so funny to me that people would think that people could do evil things like that back then that are documented, and you think that the world has changed, that all of a sudden people just became nicer people. You're being delusional if you think that, because that is absolutely not the case. But speaking about this whole thing, Candace has been speaking about it a lot, and I feel that Candace, I don't know, man. I made some videos and I was thinking like maybe she shouldn't be saying anything, but at the same time, sometimes I think to myself, what if she's right, man? What if some of the stuff she's saying is right? Some of it. I don't know, man. At this point, I don't know, and that's the honest and the best thing I can say, man. I don't know. I just hope for reconciliation between certain parties like Turning Point USA and Candace and all that, because I think this schism is like it's getting too much, and the divide it's just it's not good, man. My spirit, it makes me uncomfortable in my spirit. I feel like it's an ungodly thing, but I hope the truth can come out, and the truth in the spirit of love. The truth can come out in the spirit of love. That is really my hope with that situation. I'm praying for Candace, and I'm praying for the other side, or rather, I should be. I probably have not been doing so as much as I should. But but I'm praying that they reconcile, and I pray that they really operate with the spirit of Christ in them. Because as is, I'm not really sure what is going on right now. I'm really not sure. Some people have made some videos. Like for instance, I don't agree when people call people like Tucker Carlson anti-Semitic. I think that is, I don't agree with it at all. I think that is, in my opinion, I think that is very careless and reckless use of language. Very careless and reckless. And there are some commentators on YouTube that seem to be doing this more frequently now. And these are supposed to be conservatives, and conservatives are supposed to be careful with their language, because we know how liberals like to throw around racist and all these other words like that, and fascist and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think we should be doing the same thing. But perhaps some people genuinely believe that he's anti-Semitic, although I don't know how they would come to such a conclusion. But if you don't like Tucker or you don't like Candace, I understand. I mean, Candace has said some things that I don't agree with, but they're probably not the same things that most people or a lot of people watching this are thinking about. For instance, she did, as Marcus Rogers pointed out, she did repost or share a video of a guy saying that anybody who attacks her, he's going to go take the person to his aunt who does voodoo or something. And Candace reposting that, I thought was alarming. I was like, what are you doing? You're a Christian. We don't have any fellowship with darkness. You should be condemning the man for speaking such rubbish. So I don't, I could not understand how she does that. She reposted that, and I'm praying for her, because I know we all miss it sometimes and do things we shouldn't do. But as far as Charlie goes, I think she really did love Charlie as a brother, and I think he loved her too as a sister. And they did grow up for a time together, and they were closer than most of us understand or know. So I don't know. I hope that instead of having so much conflict, like Turning Point and Candace and whatnot, I would hope that they could work together to find some solution and have some peace. And I hope that Candace also can forgive people that offended her, because probably she does feel slighted by some Jewish people with how some things turned out and went up and went down. But I hope that she can find it in her heart to forgive them, and not harbor resentment against them, because it's not beneficial to her audience, or anyone else. And my prayer for Jewish people is that they come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ, because without Jesus Christ, all this is a waste. All this whole life you're living, everyone is living, is a waste. Jewish people, Arab people, black, white, green, yellow, red, doesn't matter. Whatever it is you are, I'm praying that you come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ, because that is the spirit of love. He died on the cross to save you, and and you don't understand how immense that is until you really understand how much suffering he endured in soul and in body to even put himself in that position. Put himself, not be put. Put himself to do that for people who really are not worthy of him and don't deserve him. And forgave people who even Man, if you think about, I know I'm kind of drifting here, but if you really understand the knowledge and the love of Jesus Christ, man, and the depth of it, it will change your life. I really do believe that. So I encourage you guys to make the effort to at least try and learn. This is this is the most important thing I can give to any audience that I have, because it's the truth of everything, and it's what guides my life, my faith. And just like Charlie, I would love to be remembered for the courage of my faith, and not just be remembered, to be known for the courage that I had in my faith. I think I'm not so worried about how I'm remembered. I guess I would love to be remembered in a Christ-like way, but I'm not so worried about it so much, as opposed to actually being, God being pleased with what I've done on the earth, and that can only be by obeying him in faith. So I encourage you to get to know the Lord Jesus, and I mean that from the heart. Now, the last two things I want to talk about, I want to address the black people and white people. First off, black people and white people seem to have had more conflicts than any other particular races, in the sense that I think it's been orchestrated to be so in some ways. There are historical things that happened, but putting all that aside, I do believe that people who are in power just want white people and black people to be fighting the most, because if you have white people and black people fighting the most, it's like the biggest distraction you can have while you're able to just move pieces on the board, do stuff. I think that black people really, like I said this before in a video, black people need to, a lot of black people need to let it go in terms of harboring the resentment and hurt of the past, because it never does any good for you. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone around you. Stop it, and stop blaming white people for everything, every problem. Yes, there are white people that in the past, maybe even in the present, not maybe, let's say some in the present as well, that don't wish the well-being of black people, but you have to understand that when you're in a position, or you put yourself in a position where you're so valuable to society and you're contributing such positivity to society, whether people like it or not, they have no choice but to respect you. So every group of people, let's say even amongst white people, you could say the Irish or the Italians or whatnot, it's not like every group of white people always like the other group of white people, because white people are not an ethnicity. They're just a skin color, right? And same with black people or any other people. So it's not like, oh, Italians were always loved. Let's say the Italians when they first came to America, or the Irish. No, it's not like everybody was always loved, but you have to prove that you are of great value, and people will have no choice but to respect you. You have to become, what's the word I'm looking for? Irreplaceable, right? And you have to become, there was another word I was looking for, but let's use irreplaceable, in the sense that people know that your contribution to society is so valuable that they cannot do without you. Every community has to create such value to society that people are like, man, yeah, we need that person. As opposed to following this so-called culture, this that is, driven by the devil, by Satan, and run by Satanists. And that's the truth. You people, the black society in America, largely growing up on hip hop culture, whatever, be talking about the culture and all this stupid stuff. And your heroes are Jay-Z and Beyonce and all these other people who are steeped in Satanism. And you can just tell from the outside. You don't even have to dig too deep. It's not like they're trying to hide it to you anyways. And these are your so-called heroes. I mean, seriously, if this is the culture, then the culture is a joke. I'm sorry. I'm just keeping it real. Instead of black Americans looking up to people like Ben Carson, which amazes me, black Americans don't even seem to care. You see, once again, I'm speaking in general terms, or truthfully, I'm saying a large portion of black Americans, not all black Americans. And this is just a deception of the devil. You talk about white people this and white people that, but you're playing into the hands of the demonic people who wish to keep you down, by celebrating stupid things and calling it the culture. I think most people, I think the average white person doesn't wish anybody bad, and the average black person shouldn't wish anybody bad either. But I think it's all this brainwashing that's been going on that just makes you think things or want to do things that are clearly ungodly, clearly. And so, yeah, I think, seriously, the black American community has got to do better. Really, I think that you have to focus on your community yourself, or focus on yourself as an individual and making, the community around you a little bit better. And if everybody does that, there won't even be black or white. It would just be everybody working for the collective good, right? So in a nation, let's say America, for instance, or England or whatever, you're just English or American or Italians. You're not looking at each other as a skin color. You're just looking at each other as a bunch of people working for the collective good of the country. And this is a lesson or a message actually to Christians in particular, because all these funny things that you guys are talking about, like black church and white church, it's just ridiculous. There is no black church or white church or Jew or Gentile. There is just Christ. And do you know how powerful that is? Oh my God. Like man, you can't even imagine, man. Jesus is just like the best, man. Not like, he is the best, bro. And for white people, on the other hand, also be careful of generalizing all black people as well, because there is also this trend to be like, oh, you see, it's them again. But that trend comes from people also who actually genuinely don't like black people and have good reason to promote the hate that they have towards black people. And like I said, a lot of human beings in general are vulnerable to trends. So they jump on that and be like, yeah, that's right. But okay, if you're going to say that a certain group of people are the cause of all your problems, then what are you saying? Do you want to exterminate them? You have to ask yourself, what is the end goal of an ideology? What is the end goal? What is it about? What would it lead to? Black people have been taught this hateful ideology towards white people. Some white people are still being taught this hateful ideology towards black people. And both groups are fighting like a bunch of fools. I mean, the ones who are engaged in this, other black people and white people are just living their lives in peace and, and enjoying themselves. And you would find this more so. Well, let me not say that. I was going to say more so among conservatives, but that's just my feeling. But maybe I'm wrong. Because maybe liberals also would say we love everybody and blah, 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 blah. But then again, they're the ones that keep on, bringing up ideas that no one is even thinking about and creating chaos where there need not be one. Until a few years ago, I'd never heard of any such thing like cultural appropriation. They make up stuff to divide us, to make us start arguing about rubbish, clearly from hell. These are all demonic ideas coming from the depths and the pit of hell. And it's so sad to see that we fall for these things. So sad. I mean, why? Why? You want to know why? Because we have been disconnected from the source. Our source of life, our source of love, our source of wisdom, our source of hope, our source of knowledge. And that is God. And we can only come to him and know him through Jesus Christ. And even more importantly, be known by him through Jesus Christ. And all these useless problems that we have in the world, we will no longer have. But until then, it remains the same. Chaos, 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 chaos. God help us, man. God help us. I've always said this. We'll always say this. Jesus Christ is King. God bless.